Scott, thank you so much for joining us. And
Glad to be here.
let's talk a little bit about some of the special events that are coming on, especially the one that's right on the horizon is the Las Vegas Rock and Roll Half Marathon and the other races. What is the county's role in a special event such as this one?
Generically, Public Works' role is to address public safety as it relates to vehicular traffic and pedestrians. What we're doing is we're going to have staff in the command center over on Martin Luther King, whereby we'll have access to camera systems. We'll be looking at how the traffic is progressing, making sure that the traffic barricade plan is deployed properly, and that there's no anomalies with that. And at the same time, Public Works will also have traffic signal staff in the field, adjusting signal times, to mitigate some of that traffic, and also to facilitate with the road closures, that run perpendicular to the boulevard, which will be closed.
And on special events like this, Scott, so how does this, much of the work that you do, and I'm sure all the organizers do, actually happens before the actual event? Just kind of run me through one like this. They come to you, they want to run a marathon. What happens next?
Okay, Public Works processes approximately 250 special events a year. We process them all similarly, but obviously there's different complexities. Something as simple as a block party would be very simple to process versus a marathon like this takes several months to process. So code reads that there should be, the applicant needs to supply a application for their event that covers the who, what, why, when, where, and how much, more or less, when the venue is going to happen, like that. There's a hold harmless agreement that is basically indemnifies the county. There's certificates of insurance that are required from each applicant, basically covering the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and Clark County Public Works. There's a traffic control plan that's typically required that would cover any road closures, lane closures, sidewalk closures, that pertain to their particular event. And probably most importantly, they need the approval of all of the stakeholders that are affected by their venue. So in this case, the marathon, they're affecting the whole strip, right? So the MGMs of the world and the Caesars and many others, are affected, including the Board of County Commission. They approve a resolution for this particular event to occur every I think it's the last Sunday in February for the next decade. All right, and so again, depending upon the complexity of the event, all these same scenarios have to be followed, including the approval of the Metropolitan Police Department, the approval of NHP, other stakeholders like the fire department, as well as construction entities that maybe be doing construction in the area. And so it's kind of very, very complex. And in this particular event, we started planning as much as 6 months in advance.
So then let's bring it full forward to the actual race day and when the event's going on. You talked about a number of the stakeholders and a number of the agencies involved, and you talked about the command center. So I would assume the command center would have many more screens like this that will show the race course, and you folks will be making decisions on the fly, or talk to me about what happens in the command center.
In the command center, we basically have representatives of the traffic control barricade company that's deploying all the cones and the barricades, water rail, and like that. We have the venue, holder right there as well to address the questions. Of course, we have NHP reps, we have Metropolitan Police reps. We'll have the city of Las Vegas will be there because part of the action takes place in their jurisdiction. And we'll have access to several hundred cameras, such as the ones behind us here, as well as many private cameras as well, so that we can, mitigate any type of problems if there were a shooting, or a stabbing, if there was an accident which causes traffic to be diverted, so we can react to any kind of anomaly that we didn't plan for. That's what you would see going on in the command center.
And then how is an event like this different than a stationary one? Obviously, this is a half marathon, and it's miles and miles, mostly of Las Vegas Boulevard, that will be blocked off. And I know it's not the same as like a New Year's Eve party, but something else that is, contained on Las Vegas Boulevard or on certain streets. How is that different than a moving event like this one?
The marathon's kind of unique in that it is occupying 13 miles of public right-of-way, simultaneously over a several-hour period of time. And so that's kind of unique to the type of special events that we process. Most of our events are events that begin and end, kind of like a Raiders football game. We process events for that. So we have a situation where there's ingress, where all the people get to the event, and then we have egress, of course, when they leave, and we have this big dead spot in the middle. And so comparing and contrasting, the marathon to, a lot of the stationary events, there's different dynamics, that we're addressing.
Fair enough. And obviously one thing that will be on your plate here in a month and a half, 2 months from now, is the NFL draft, and that's also blocking off a few streets for several days. Is this a unique situation for this type of road type closure on the Strip and around that area?
Absolutely. This is something that we really haven't done before. We are still in the planning stages of this event, so I don't really want to comment necessarily on what's going to happen with that and how it's going to be different, but we're certainly going to learn a lot of new things about these potential proposed road closures for a several-day period of time.
What are some of the craziest things or things that have happened during special events that required the team's expertise to contain it, to make the event run a little bit smoother while it's operating?
Traffic accidents, probably as much as anything, will cause us to detour traffic. If we had a Vegas Golden Knight game, for example, and there was a accident on Frank Sinatra, which between Park and Spring Mountain closed that roadway, we would divert the traffic, of course, from Frank Sinatra to the south. And so again, with the help of the camera systems, and Metro, we're able to make adjustments to mitigate, an anomaly that wasn't planned for.
Gotcha. You talked about a couple, the new sporting teams, the Golden Knights and the Las Vegas Raiders, which a lot of people, I'm sure, were thinking that was going to be a traffic nightmare and problems, and maybe it was to begin with, but that improved a lot over the time from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. Why do you think that is?
I think we learn a little bit, with each event. They're all not the same. I can think when we first opened the Allegiant Stadium with the Garth Brooks concert, that was our first major event where we had 50, 60,000 people in one place at one time, and so things didn't go so smoothly, but as we had more and more events, Raiders games and concerts, we've reduced that egress time down to approximately 1 hour. And so, yeah, we've learned a lot. The other temperature dynamics, it was very hot back to the Garth Brooks concert, we had some issues crossing over the bridge. And matter of fact, this weekend, we have the Metallica concert there. We have the Billy Joel concert there. On Sunday, we have the marathon event. And so we have many different type of venues going on in such a short period of time that we have to be very flexible, to address each event, a little bit differently based upon what we've learned.
I guess finally, crystal balling it a couple years in advance, there's the Super Bowl of events is called the Super Bowl, which is coming to town. Is that on your horizon already yet, or is that something that you have to talk to the National Football League and the other stakeholders, or where, when will that start taking place?
I believe it already has started taking place. We're very excited. Our city is, of course, or the people in the valley that live here like that. But really, the fine tuning of that is really in its elementary planning stages. The NFL has a number of requirements, I understand, to host a Super Bowl. They have a security zone that they will put up. It's a several day period of time where there's a lot of security measures that need to be in place for a venue of that nature. But we're excited, and we're going to plan for it like we plan for these other events. We're going to work through the challenges and come up with a solution to make it a positive experience for everybody that attends.